Hello, everyone. My name's Marie Spear, and I'm one of the presenters on managing your references with Mendeley. I'm the engineering and chemistry liaison librarian, and am in the sciences and technology library as well as the engineering library. And I'll just get Vicki to introduce herself as well, and then we'll get started.
So I'm Vicki Albrecht. I'm also in the Science Library with Marie, and I primarily work with the departments of Biological Sciences and Microbiology.
So I'm going to start off with a few slides, and then we'll do a demo with Mendeley and hopefully give you some time to practice. And if you have any questions, please put some questions into the question box. If you can't hear us, please let us know. And so I'm going to turn off my webcam for now, so I kind of save some space for the slides, and we'll get started. Oh, I should also mention that we are recording the session, but we're not sure if we will be posting it or not. We are waiting for some more information and to find out if we can post it or not. So, but we do have some handouts in the handout section. There's kind of a workshop handout with screenshots of what we're going to be covering today, as well as should be some PowerPoints of the slides that I'm showing. Okay, so this is just a beginning slide that shows what you should see on the right-hand side of the screen is the Gotowebinar control panel. And there's a questions area where you can enter your question. And here's just a close-up view. You can also check to make sure that your audio is set correctly in this control panel. So we're going to be talking about Mendeley today, and it's a free academic software that allows you to manage downloaded PDFs as well as create citations and bibliographies for your papers. It's available in a variety of different platforms, and it is supported by several different browsers as well as mobile devices. You can use an app on a tablet or an iPad, as well as your phone and desktop or web. So there's different components to Mendeley. The one that we're going to be showing today is Mendeley Desktop. So it's a program that you can download onto your computer, and hopefully you have done that so that you can do some practicing. It's available for Windows and Mac. I understand that there's issues using Mendeley Desktop with the newest version of the Mac operating system. So that is one drawback if you're using the latest operating system for Mac. You can also use it on Linux, and I have a link in my slides to additional information on the compatibility. There's also a web portion to Mendeley, and you can sync the information that you add to the desktop to the web version and vice versa. The free plan includes 2 GB of online storage, and I believe this is still the case because they keep changing it. It looks like you could have 5 private groups for up to 25 people, but only 100 megabytes of shared web storage. So a private group is something that you would set up to share PDFs with other lab partners or researchers. And You can create public groups, but you can't share PDFs in those public groups. So the free plan has limited sharing options for groups, but you do have 2 gigabytes of free online storage for your own personal library. So to get the information from the desktop to the web, you would use the sync option on your Mendeley desktop. It's not an automatic sync, so it's something that you have to remember to do. So you can use Mendeley, a Mendeley plugin with Microsoft Word on both Mac and Windows, as well as LibreOffice. And if you do use LaTeX, you can generate BibTeX files for use in your LaTeX program. Now, the Mendeley has come out with some new features, and they're still more or less in beta, but I wanted to mention it to you because I think that you could easily get confused if you're on the Mendeley website and not know what some of the differences are with these new products. So one of them is Mendeley Cite, which is supposed to work with Office 365, but I found that this add-on is currently blocked on the U of M version of Office 365, at least on the staff side. I haven't tested on the student side. So it's not, it doesn't have all the features of the desktop plugin at the moment. So we're recommending still to use the desktop version and the desktop Word plugin. But I wanted to make you aware that this new version is available. It is also supposed to work with Microsoft Word app for the iPad, but I haven't had a chance to test that out yet myself. You also can't use it for documents where you've already started to add citations into Word using the desktop Word plugin. So you may see this Mendeley Cite, but at the moment it's still not out of beta as far as I'm aware. Another kind of confusing thing is that Mendeley is coming up with a new version of their reference manager. It's kind of a totally rebuilt, and it's even possible that you might have downloaded this version rather than the desktop version when you're installing Mendeley. So I wanted to let you know about that. So this new reference manager will be replacing the Mendeley Desktop and Mendeley Web library eventually. And supposedly it does work with the newer version of the Mac operating system. To add references into Word, you have to use that new Mendeley Cite app. One new feature that's available in this version of Mendeley is a Mendeley Notebook that's supposed to help you collate your highlights and notes for multiple PDFs. And I've just started to investigate this feature, but I haven't, I'm not really familiar with it yet. So that's all I can tell you about the Mendeley Notebook at this moment. If you do want to use the new reference manager, you can, even in conjunction with the Mendeley Desktop. So yeah, as long as you sync your library to the web version of Mendeley, then you can sign into the new version of this reference manager, and your library will transfer over to it. Today's session is not going to be looking at the new version. We're going to be focusing primarily on the desktop version of Mendeley, because that one has, there's still some features that aren't available in the new Mendeley Cite and the new reference manager, and so we're still showing the desktop version. If you think that 2 gigabytes of storage is not enough, you could pay for some additional storage. And I haven't checked the prices recent, like maybe in the last few months, but the last time we checked, the prices were $5 a month for 5 gigabytes of personal storage, and you can go up for more storage and pay a little bit more if you want more storage. It is also possible to decide what you want to sync to the web version. Maybe you don't need everything synced to the web version, so you can just select certain folders that will sync in order to save some space. So today we're going to be looking at creating a library and managing your documents, and also looking at how you can add references into Microsoft Word and create bibliographies. We hope to have some time. We're going to pause for a little bit throughout the presentation in order to give you a chance to try it on your own. We normally do this presentation kind of in a lab with a kind of a hands-on type session. So this is the first time we're trying it out in in an online environment, and we wanted to incorporate some chance for you to practice what you see, so that hopefully you'll remember how to do some of the functions. And please send us questions if you have any questions as we go along. So now I'm going to change my view so that you can see my Mendeley library. So hopefully everybody can see my Mendeley screen. And Vicki, let me know if there's any problems on your end too.
We're good so far.
Okay, great. So here I have, I'm just going to go show my library. The library consists of 3 different panels. The left-hand side are folders where you can create and store information in different topics. The center pane gives you brief details about your documents. And if you click on one of the items in the center pane, you'll see the details on the third pane on the right-hand side. So the details that are shown are very important because this is the information that would end up being added into your bibliographies. So we need to spend some time looking at the details and making sure everything is correct. So I'm going to be showing different ways of adding information into Mendeley. One way is to use the add option, and you have an option of adding files or adding a whole folder full of PDFs. So I can go to add folder and find my folder. And so I have a folder here with PDFs, so I could just click on that folder and then the PDFs will be added. And I'm just changing my sort here, so hopefully we can see something that has been added. So here is actually I only had a couple of papers, so here's the one that I just added. You can also drag and drop PDFs that you maybe have on your desktop into your Mendeley library, but then you would have to keep those PDFs on your desktop, or else I'll be talking about how you can copy them into a Mendeley folder in a little bit. Now, as the information is added, I'll just show you the PDF is also stored. I'm just going to click on that PDF icon to show the PDF. And I'm going to close out my PDFs and go back to the regular view. Mendeley tries to extract the information from the PDF and puts it into the details on the right-hand side. Now, the problem is that some PDFs work fairly well, but other PDFs don't work well at all. Older PDFs, maybe even since before 2000, 2010, might not work as well as the newer PDFs. So you do, depending upon where you're getting your articles from, how old they are, some of the details may not get transferred properly. So as information's added into Mendeley, there are a folder is created called Needs Review when Mendeley decides that some information is missing. So you can check to see if Mendeley thinks that something's wrong with your PDFs by going to the Needs Review folder. Now, if there's a PDF, but for some reason the pages are there, but they're incorrect, Mendeley doesn't know that. It just knows that maybe there's something missing from the citation details. So you still have to often go through and double check. And so what I suggest is that as you're reading the document, so because you could read it from this view, you double check the details of the citations as you're reading to make sure that the information is correct. So let's just take a few minutes. Actually, what I should have done is asked a question as to how many people have downloaded Mendeley. Hopefully, some of you have, so that you can try out and look at the Mendeley and have already added a few PDFs so that you can try this out. I'm just going to pause for a few minutes. You can ask some questions, or you can try and see if you can find the Needs Review folder. I see somebody has asked a question about the cost of Mendeley, and I'm pretty sure that's American money. Okay, well, I'm going to continue on and show you some shortcuts that you can use to locate some of the missing information that might be in your Mendeley library. So if you're in the Needs Review folder, you often will see on the right-hand side, there's this kind of yellow box that says, these details need reviewing. You can either mark them as correct or search the Mandalay Catalog. So the Mandalay Catalog is basically the papers that everybody is uploading into Mendeley on the Mendeley website. So as you add your papers, they get stored into a big catalog that you can search. So if somebody else has already added this and fixed up some of the details, then you could use the search box to locate additional details. So I don't know what was missing here. It didn't look like it was missing too much information, but if there was, it would have added some additional details. So I'm going to look at another one. This one is missing the journal name, volume, issues, and pages. So another way to look up the information is to use the DOI lookup, which is at the bottom, close to the bottom of the details. And there's a little lookup or magnifying glass that you can click on. So in this case, I have a DOI listed, so I could try even using this DOI lookup. And you can see that it found the name of the journal and the other details for this particular article. So that's another way of trying to find the details for a particular article. I'm just going to go into another example. And try this one again with the DOI lookup. And you can see that it has added the details. So I'd like you to take a few minutes to try this out. Somebody's saying that some of the details are still wrong, and it is possible that they might be wrong. There is no, unfortunately, sometimes when you're looking up the details from the Mendeley or from the DOI lookup, the details could still be wrong, unfortunately. So I'm just looking at this particular paper to see. Sometimes you have to scroll down to some of the bottom of the PDF to find all the details. I'm not sure if I'd have to look maybe even on the website for this one just to make sure. Oh, here's some citation information over on this side. So the one thing is, whoever mentioned that they thought that these details were incorrect. This particular publication doesn't have page numbers like 1 to 10 or 10 to 20. It has article numbers. So in this case, the pages would be correct because it just has an article number, not a page range. So I think that these details would be correct, but if somebody happened to notice something different, you can add that into the questions. So I'll just let you, I'm just going to pause a little bit more so that you can try looking at some of the details and seeing how you can change them. Now, you can always manually add information yourself, but we're always trying to find ways of speeding up the process. So if I wanted to manually add something, this, of course, I happen to pick something that's a little tricky, so I'm going to just try a different one. So the journal name is missing on this one, so I can manually enter that information. So if it's only missing a little bit of information, it's not too bad to manually put it in, but sometimes it's missing all the details, so you might need to enter quite a bit of information, and you might want to use one of those faster options. So Vicki, are there any other questions so far?
Yes, there is some more questions, Marie. Sorry about that. Just trying to answer a few of them. So just to follow up with you showed about PLOS One article by
Right,
Hugh there. And so the question
right.
is, an electronic publication, there is a number that goes in instead of page numbers. Is that going to be always the case for electronic article?
Okay. It's just some journals have decided to do it that way, so it's not the case for every electronic article. So there's no standard way of dealing with things. Lots of publishers are still using page numbers. Even, I think it's because they used to have a print journal. Some journals that like Plus One, I think have been online only, and that's probably why they went to electronic article numbers instead of page numbers. But it's kind of still can vary depending on how the publisher has set things up.
There is another question about when the lookup fails, what would your process be to kind of fix that?
Well, you can try the Mendeley search option. So in the needs review section, you can see this Mendeley search option. So you could try that if the DOI lookup fails. So that'd be another way. Sometimes I find that this search doesn't always fix it up. Maybe the details are incorrect on the Mendeley Web Catalog too. Other than that, it would be manually entering the information. If you can't use the DOI lookup, I mean, there is this Pubmed Id lookup option for people that are in the health sciences. If a paper has the Pubmed ID added onto it, you could enter that Pubmed ID and then use the lookup for that if it doesn't show. But you basically have these three lookup options: archive ID for the physics preprint server, DOI lookup, or the Pubmed ID, and the Mandalay Catalog search option. Those are, I mean, there's maybe some other ways of adding information in, but it's those would be the main things, or manually changing it. Now, are there any other questions, Vicki?
Just about the DOI, if it's blank, I guess you would go to the PDF and see if it has a DOI in there.
Yeah, you could try that and copy it over. If that is an option, although, you know, if the some of the details weren't correct and it's an older paper, you may not have a DOI on the paper that you can copy over, because a lot of the problems tend to be more so, I'd say, for the older papers. Okay, well, I'm going to go on to a few other ways to add information into Mendeley, and then we can stop for some more questions. And hopefully you can are able to either follow along or practice on your own while I'm pausing. So sometimes you don't have a document to add into your Mendeley library. You don't have a PDF. So you can also use the add option and then select add entry manually. So here you have to tell Mendeley what type of information you're adding into Mendeley first. So the default is journal article, but there are other options. So maybe you need to add in a book chapter, or you might need to add in, well, here's a film, You might need to add in a newspaper article or a patent. So you would pick the information that the category that matches what you want to add. So I could add, say, a web page, and then I basically have to enter things manually. And I'm just wanting to show something here. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. I have Health Canada entered in the author option box. And when I do that, you'll notice that it comes up as institution organization. So because this is an organization, I actually want to select institution organization from this drop down. And that way, when the bibliography is being generated, it knows it shouldn't treat this particular author as a personal name. And so instead of saying Canada, H, it will say Health Canada. So I need to know like what's important about my, what details I need to add for that particular type of citation. And I'm just making this up, just so you can see how you would enter information. So I probably need a date accessed. And if I know any more information, I can add it. And then I would save that. And it will be entered into my library. So you can use that manual entry for anything that you can't figure out how to add. Usually it's for information that doesn't have a PDF that you can drag and drop into your library.
Marie, quick question for you.
Sure.
If you had a BibTeX file, would you be able to import it into your Mendeley library?
Yes, you should be able to do that under Add Files. Mendeley should read BibTeX files. Now, I'm going to pause for a little bit in case so that you can try going to the Add Entry Manually option and try to add some details for an item into your Mendeley library, and also give you a chance to ask some other questions in the question box. Okay, are there any other questions that you think we should answer, Vicki?
Oh, somebody's asking how we add a PDF file. Which one to click on. So if you can just review that briefly. If you have the PDF, say on your desktop.
Yeah, so you can use this drop down option here called Add Files. It's listed as Add in the Mendeley Desktop, and there's Add Files. If it was on your desktop, you could also drag and just drop it into the middle pane. Any other questions on what we've covered so far?
I'm not seeing just yet, but I am answering questions as they come in from people. So if I don't get to yours immediately, don't panic. I'm getting through the questions as they do come in.
Okay, well, continue to send in your questions. This is a little challenging doing these virtual version of this workshop because we can't see if you're having a problem. So the next option I wanted to show you is another way to add information into Mendeley. And if you go to the Tools option in Mendeley Desktop, there's an Options selection here. And if you go over to Watch Folders, you can select folders where you store any new PDFs that you've added into your computer. And if you add anything new, so where is my desktop? So I have this PDF icon or folder. And if I save more PDFs into this folder and I have this checked off, then the PDFs will automatically be added into my Mendeley desktop. So that's a little easier than I think easier than saying downloading PDFs to your desktop. You create a folder somewhere where you're storing your PDFs, and then just tell Mendeley to look in that folder for anything new. So that's what that watch folder option is about. There's also the file organizer. So you could have Mendeley organize your PDF files. So I can select organize my files, and you could sort them into subfolders, but the categories are by year, title, author, or journal. And you can also have them rename your files. So right now, the default, I think, is naming the file by author, year, and title. So if I have organized my files checked off, then any PDFs will automatically be copied to the folder that I've got listed here. You could probably select a different folder, but this is what I have used, just the default name. And then you can have Mendeley rename your files so in a consistent manner by checking off rename document files. And I'm always learning something new. I had a workshop a while back, and somebody asked, well, as you add details and fix up the details, what happens to the file name? And I discovered that Mendeley does change the file name if you're adding details to your Mendeley. So like if the author was missing and you added the author's name, then it would change the file name to add that author name. So this is another feature that you can use to help organize your PDFs. Often when you download PDFs, they are, well, quite often you might have just a set of random numbers and letters. So this feature is kind of nice so that you can find those files later on. Although you don't need it so much when you use Mendeley, because you could use Mendeley search features to find it, but it's an option that you could set up. And then to turn that feature on, you would just click on apply, and that would be set up. Are there any questions about using the watch folder?
I think some people are just trying it out, Marie, so we may want to
Okay,
wait a minute
sure,
or
that's
two.
sure, that sounds good.
I'm not seeing any questions coming in about the watch folders, Marie, so I feel
Okay.
comfortable moving on.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm just going to, I think I wonder if I missed something that I wanted to.
I think you skipped over the web importer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking I did.
Okay.
So let's go into the web importer. I went and turned my page and was thinking, yeah, I totally missed the web importer page. So there is one other way that you can use the add information into Mendeley, and that's by using the web importer. So if you go to Tools, there is this option to install the web importer. Now, I'm not sure what'll happen here because I think it'll pull up the web page. So I think I'm not going to click on this, but you can. And I'll just go to the web version, or pull up a web browser and get that open.
So while Marie's doing that, the web importer for Mendeley is for Google Chrome and Firefox browsers currently supported. Previously, they had supported Microsoft Edge and they supported Safari. But right now, when Marie and I were doing testing over the past couple days, they're not providing the downloads for those other web browsers at this time.
Okay, so maybe I'll just do a search here for Mendeley Web Importer. So you just basically can search Mendeley Web Importer or use that link to get the importer. And here I have Get Web Importer for Chrome. So I can just click on that, and then basically what'll happen is I should end up seeing this kind of Mendeley symbol in my web browser. It's up on the top. I've added it to my bookmarks bar. So maybe I'll give you a few minutes to see if you can get that web importer installed before I continue on. The Firefox might look, I'm not sure if it looks the same. Did you test that out, Vicki?
I did. This morning I tested out Firefox. It is similar in that you would see that little red and white box that Marie just showed, the Mendeley icon. One thing I noticed with my Firefox settings is that I actually had to go into the extension settings in order for it to actually display on my bookmarks bar. So it may not be showing up right away. It probably is installed, but the icon, you'll have to enable it to actually display right beside your search box.
Yeah, I find it's convenient to have it available, easily available in your browser. It used to be like a bookmark, and you could have it, stored in with all your other bookmarks, but maybe not in your bookmark bar. And I like to have it easily available so that I can just click on it easily. So I'm going to go ahead and just show how it works. So here I'm on this Plus One Journal website. This particular journal is an open access journal, so I don't have to go through the library website to get to it. I can display the PDFs It doesn't require a subscription fee. So that's one of the reasons why I chose it, because it's easy to access. So I just picked one article, but if you go to +1 here, if you want to try this out, you can just pick any one of these articles that are displaying. And I find that it works best if you try to download the PDF. So I'm going to click on download PDF, and I have it so that it displays in my browser. And then to add this article into Mendeley, I can click on the Mendeley Web Importer icon. And you will have to sign in to your account. So you should actually get some kind of message to sign into your web library account, Mendeley account. And once you sign in, then you can select which folder you want your paper to be added to. And I can click add. Now it gives me a message here. It has a PDF check, reference check. So this indicates that it was able to download the PDF and attach it along with the reference. So this PDF has now been added to the web version of Mendeley. And to get it into my desktop version, I would then go to Mendeley Desktop and click on the sync option that I mentioned in the PowerPoint slides. So right now, this isn't in my desktop yet, but it is in my Mendeley web library. Now, the problem is, it seems like I'm always saying that there's problems, but anyways, another problem or issue is that the web importer doesn't always work. Like sometimes it can't grab the PDF for some reason or other. So that's why you still need to be able to add it another way. Like you might need to add, as I say, download the PDF and use the watch folder option, or download the PDF and use the add files option. So this works quite well for some journals, but then it might not work for another journal. So you need to know more than one way to add information into Mendeley. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to Mendeley Desktop and show how I can add this back into my Mendeley Desktop library. So I'll switch this back. So I added that paper in my workshop folder, and to add it back into my Mendeley Desktop, there's this sync icon. It's kind of a green circle with arrows, and I click on that, and hopefully it will get added into my library. It's just a little slow in the syncing part. So while it's waiting, I just want to highlight a few other features very quickly, and then we'll go into, Vicky's going to demonstrate how to enter your citations into Microsoft Word. So these green buttons here are, you can turn off to indicate that you've read the paper. And I think, Vicky, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that if you open up a PDF and read through it, then it automatically will change to being read. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah, I tend to kind of ignore that, but I think that is the way it works. You also have these favorites that you can select favorites and be able to indicate what some that you really want to look at are important, for instance. Now, when you open up a PDF, you also have have some options to highlight and annotate your PDF. You can add a note into the paper somewhere. And you can put this note anywhere along the PDF. On the right-hand side, there's a tab beside the Details tab that says Notes. And you can use the note feature to write notes about the article that you want, information that you want to keep track on. You can enter into this general notes area. And if you have added any of these private annotations, it will indicate that you have an annotation on that PDF. So, so you can highlight different sections of a PDF if you want using the Mendeley annotation feature. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show before we switch to over to Vicky is you can sort your library just by clicking on these columns, sort by author, reverse author, title, year, etc. You can use the search feature to look for information, and you can also select article titles or authors, or if you just enter anything into the search box, it'll search through like the whole PDF if it can read the PDF as well as the citation. The other thing you can do is change the way that your library is viewed, and under the view option there is a view as library as citation. So before I do that, you can see the citation style options. So I might have different options than you. So if I wanted IEEE style, I could select IEEE, and the citation, if I change the view to library as citations, those citations will be viewed in that style. I'm just going to choose APA and then go to library as citations. So now your references are listed the way they would be entered into your Microsoft Word. So sometimes I find this useful to try to determine if there are some issues or missing information for a particular citation. Sometimes it's difficult to know when you're just looking at the table view if you're missing any information. So this is one option that you can use to see how the citation would look in a particular style. So let's just see if there's any questions up to now, and then we can switch over and Vicky can show the citation feature in Microsoft Word.
Is there a way to search for which PDFs I have written notes on?
I'm trying to think. If you had put something into your note field that was kind of unique, like I think I might, well, I don't know if let me just try something here. So in my note field, I put my name, and then I can search using the note option for my name. It would find my name. So you can search for words that appear in the notes, but I think that if the notes, unless you put something, some kind of indicator that some kind of word, or maybe you come up with some kind of like acronym that you could put into your note that you wouldn't actually find in a title or a PDF, then you could use that to identify which ones have notes. But I don't know, I don't think it would, you'd have to find some other way, like maybe starring them as your favorites, or you'd have to find some other way to identify things that don't have notes, I think. You know, Vicki, have you any other ideas?
I think those ideas are a good starting point. We haven't received that question previously, and Marie and I've done these workshops dozens of times, so this is always good to hear what other new things to investigate. And while we're at notes, can you show again how you would add a note to a PDF and to your general notes?
Yes, so I click on an item in my center pane, then often you'll see the details showing up, but the notes are right beside it. So then I click on the tab called Notes, and here is where I can enter my note. And I can put that in there. So as soon as you click out of that note, that information is saved. Does that help?
But what about those sticky notes in the PDF?
Oh, the sticky notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, okay. So to add a sticky note, that is up at the top of the, after you open up a PDF, by clicking on the Adobe icon, there is a toolbar and there's a note feature here. So I can just click somewhere on the PDF and then I can drag this note somewhere. And here I can move this note around to the area where I want it to appear. And then if you kick back to the notes area on the right-hand side, you can see that I've got a note, a private annotation in my PDF. One thing though is these private annotations are not searchable. At least they haven't been in the past. So the notes are searchable, the general notes are searchable, but not these private annotations. All right, I'm changing the presenter to Vicki, and she's going to show how you can add your citations into Microsoft Word.
Okay. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. I'm in my Mendeley Desktop. So the first thing you'll note about mine compared to what Marie was showing, she had a table view up. So that's kind of the default view for Mendeley Desktop. You can change this into a formatted citation. So to do that, I can go to View, Library as Citations. So if I change it back to Library as Table, I can see authors, titles, year, published in, when I added it, and Library as Citations. So you can see right now I've got American Psychological Association 7th edition. If I wanted to change the style, so I can go to View, Citation Style, and when you first open up your Mendeley Desktop, it will have several of these styles here. Probably yours looks a little bit different than mine because I've added some additional ones. So we can go to more styles if I don't see the style I need. And then I can go to get more styles and start typing in the name of the journal or the name of the style I'm interested in. So maybe I'm interested in Council of Science Editors, the name year format. I will click on install. So now I know it's installed. So if I go back to my installed tab, I can see Council of Science Editors. If I click on use this style, we'll see that the documents showing as a formatted citation American Psychological Association will change to be this style. So I'll click on use this style. And if you notice in the background, it did change. If I selected IEEE, for instance, it changes again. This time with this style, they have a number system. So one of the reasons I like to view my library, my Mendeley Desktop library as a style, this gives me the preview for how the reference would look in my reference list. I know the style quite well, and from this viewpoint, I often can identify which ones look incorrect. Maybe the capitalization is incorrect. Maybe they added additional information, those types of things. So now that this is looking right, how do I get it working with Microsoft Word? So we saw the tools before where you install the web importer. So right below is MS Word plugin. So if I clicked on this right now, it would uninstall it from my Word plugin, but try installing it. If you haven't run any Microsoft Office applications recently, it will ask you to run them before you do the install. If you have any Microsoft Office applications running, it will ask you to close them before you can do the install. So tools, install MS Word plugin. So when that's working, you'll get a message to say, so I'll uninstall it right now. So as I mentioned before, if I have something running, it will tell me to close it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go into my Microsoft Word. So where it puts Mendeley, it installs what we call Mendeley Cytomatic. Mendeley Cytomatic into the References tab. You may have used this References tab before if you were using the Insert Citation feature and creating your own bibliography from within Word. Now we've got Mendeley as an application here. So now I'm ready to start typing up my essay or a journal article I'm working on, some kind of manuscript. So I'm ready to put in a citation. There's two ways I can do it. I can either start typing in a year, name of an author, maybe I know part of the title, or I could go to Mendeley. So I'm going to show this a couple of times just so everyone has some practice with it. In this instance, I'm going to click Go to Mendeley Desktop. And you can see here's my desktop. I can select one, or I can hold down my control key on my Windows computer and select a couple. So I've selected here 3 different articles I want cited, and it adds this cite button. So we normally don't see this in the Mendeley Desktop. We only see this when we're working with Microsoft Word and get asked to go to Mendeley Desktop. I'm going to click on Cite. So it's added it in there. I mentioned the other version. The other version to insert a citation. So again, clicking on Insert Citation is just to start typing in a year or a name of a person. So that's the inserting citations. There are a couple things you can do with these. One of them is for certain styles. So right now I'm still in APA. If you had a quote, someone said something amazing about this thing. So maybe that's the quote. And with quotes for APA style, they ask for a page number. So instead of clicking on OK, like I did before, this time I'm going to click on the name of the person. So our DTI, that's what I've clicked on. And now it shows me this additional menu. So I can add in, so from this drop down, a page number, maybe a book chapter, if I was dealing with some poetry, maybe a specific paragraph. I'm going to use the page. So now it's added that page number in for me. So I don't have to type that out by myself. With some author year styles, citation styles, you may start your sentence off with the names of the people. For instance, I may start with Fauci and Morans, which I've mentioned earlier. But instead of having the citation at the end, I want just the year to show up. So I'm going to type in and click back on it. So in this case, it didn't put in for me correct, but this goes to show one other additional thing is that you can edit this. So I've got it highlighted. I can see it's grayed in. I'm going to click on Edit Citation. I'll click back on the name. That pulls up this additional window. And this is where I can suppress author. So the author will not show up in my citation here. It's just going to be the year. So that's how I can do the citations. Now, when I'm ready for my references, instead of me having to type them all out, what I will do is again go back to this Mendeley Cytomatic section and click on where the book is icon, insert bibliography. So what it's done, it's looked in my entire Word document for that information. Now, say I picked the wrong style, that I should have picked a number style like IEEE. If I select it from this drop-down menu right now, you can see that it's updated all my citations. to reflect that style. Any questions so far? Oh,
I'm not seeing
so
any. Oh, just one just came in here. Just
yeah,
a minute.
the cite icon on Mendeley, would you repeat that briefly? Sure. So if I am typing up, so I clicked on insert citation here. So I was showing how you could do the search, but if I click on go to Mendeley and then select the items from the list here, this is where I will see a cite button show up, an upside down quotation. And then if I want to cite these two that I've selected, I would click on cite. And then it took me back into Word where I did the cite. If I wanted to insert multiple citations here, I can do that as well. You'll notice for a number style, if I've used the reference previously, it does keep track of that. If I'm using a new reference as I'm writing, then it will add that to my section, to the references section. If you need to delete one of these, I recommend going into here and deleting it rather than just backspacing. If I backspace, as you just saw, it erased all of those. If I went in and edit the citation, I can just delete this one and click on OK. And now I just have the one. Other questions about citing in Word using this feature?
I'm not seeing anything, but can you talk a little bit about what if happens if you notice a mistake in your bibliography and you want to correct it?
Sure. So maybe I noticed the mistake here that I'll just highlight this in red here. And I'll make it a little bit larger. So say here, I've noticed that it shouldn't be capitalized, the letters. And it missed out further. Maybe it missed out a whole word even. So if now I went back and added another citation in here, you'll notice that that red got overwritten. So completely got override, and now it reverted back to the old version. So if I needed to say add a word in here, so this further analysis, I had added a year in between, I should go back to the Mendeley Desktop. So that was Dennis Greenwood libqual revisit. So it's this one here. I would go into the title itself, add that 2020. I could make the changes here with the capitalization. So I've made those changes. I'm going to make sure I click on sync. I don't see it come automatically up. What I will need to do is click on refresh. And so now you notice that that got updated with the year in there and the uncapitalized. So when you're working with large documents, if you want to make changes, you can either do two things with your bibliography. You can either make the changes right at the very end when you're not going to be making any changes in your document, or preferably you go back into your Mendeley Desktop version and make the changes there and then refresh. The other thing you can do, and this is in that handout that's attached, I know we've only got a couple minutes left, is that right now, when I click on these numbers here and even on the references, I can see their grade. There's a gray box that goes behind there. What that graying is Word is looking at it as a field. And if we want to remove this, say I need to submit this paper to somebody who might find this annoying or who's never used Mendeley and won't understand why that's grayed in, I can save this document as a version that doesn't have that grayed in area. So exporting it so it doesn't show those Mendeley fields. So this Mendeley Citomatic again, export as, this is number 16 in that manual. If you've downloaded it, that workshop without Mendeley fields. So before I can actually export it, I'm going to have to save this document first. I'm giving it a name, letting me know that it's my original document. So now what's popped up is that I would be saving a copy of this file. So that's why I'm seeing this additional save pop up, and it starts with the file name as Mendeley. So I can change this and I can write, so version that does not have the gray areas. So this first one here in Word, this is my original one. And if I open up, so this looks like it's the same version, but click over top of these numbers, or even in this reference list, I can see there's no grayed areas. So I can make edits here, but the downside to this is if I wanted to add something else. So if I want to add another citation in, so sure, I add the citation in, but it didn't recognize the fact that I have picked this style or that there's already a references list. So when you do have to make additions to your citations or corrections, you will need to go back to the original version of it. So now if I go and open up, this is the original document now. And that's the same paper that I just added another one. You can see that it's actually integrated in with the style I had chosen. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, but are there any questions, anything people would like to see again before Marie and I will stay on for a while, but that is our content for today.
Yeah, so we have our email addresses listed here, and you're welcome to contact us, and we can maybe make some kind of arrangement so that we can do a WebEx session or something like that where we can share our screens and we can troubleshoot a little bit easier that way.